Today, I have a very, very special guest. We have a 15-time All-Star. This man's won 13 Gold Gloves, a World Series champion, Hall of Famer, philanthropist, father, and I mean, I can go down the list. Without further ado, Ozzie Smith.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and hopefully you guys were a part of my trip down that yellow brick road.
Oh yeah, we'll dive into that time you were in the Muni. Now, do you do podcasts often, or are you doing radio more?
Well, I do a little bit of everything, actually. Podcast and stuff. I must say that I'm not a big media guy myself, and I'm still learning more about what a real podcast is and stuff. So, I'm an old guy.
But you were just talking about TikTok or I guess we do have some clips of it, but you're talking about TikTok.
A lot of funny stuff on TikTok. They can't take that away. They're talking about taking it away. But as I told you off camera, I think it's more about the fact that over there they use it for educational purposes, and our version here is more entertainment.
I feel like a lot of St. Louis, they know a lot about you. And so what I did was I reached out to a bunch of my close friends who have been following you. They followed you throughout your whole career. They know almost every single fact. And they had some questions, and I have questions myself. What was it like when you first heard that you were coming to St. Louis?
Well, I knew it was going to be cold and hot. But I knew I was coming to an organization that was rich in tradition. There was a lot more experience here because at that time, San Diego was a revolving door. And I knew that if I was going to have a chance to compete and win and hopefully make it to the World Series at some point in time in my career, I was going to have that opportunity here in St. Louis. And after we got all of the things worked out, Whitey Herzog, who was one of the probably one of the brightest people that I've ever met in the game of baseball because he's worked at every level, he told me, he said, if you come to St. Louis, there's no reason that we can't win it all. And then my first year here in 1982, we make it to the World Series and we win it all, So that was kind of the beginning of it. And I decided to hang on and stay here because of the people. Had a couple businesses here and my kids go to school here. So that's what has kept me here.
Now looking back to that time when you came here and you didn't really know what to expect, that you were going to win a World Series that year. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I think that I was pretty grounded in my approach to not only baseball, but life, The one thing, and I always leave this with young people, that in life, you only get out what you put in. If you don't put anything in, shouldn't expect anything in return. And it's not just sport, that's life, So coming here, I knew that there was one thing that was going to get me to the next level, and that was to continue to work hard and never take anything for granted. And I never took anything for granted. I was blessed with great hand and eye coordination. I knew that, but I knew that could be taken away at any point and any time. And I never wanted to leave the sport or the game feeling like I didn't give my all. So I approached every day as if it was going to be the last day that I had a chance to play and do what it is I love doing. I don't know if everybody can say that, I did what I loved doing and I got paid for it. And I never worked a day in my life.
I think for me, it was in 2020 was the first time I really actually realized that, because I've heard people say it. And then it's like, you're like, when things start shutting down, oh man, I can't go to March Madness, or I can't do that. Oh man, okay, well, baseball, oh no, I can't do. And then all of a sudden you can't do anything.
Right.
And then for me, it literally like changed my life. Here I am talking to you today. But no, I think that's amazing advice. What was harder? Would you say your rookie season or the year going into retirement?
I think that when you take the journey, it's knowing or looking back and remembering all the great times, So near the end is probably harder. As a rookie, it's tough, But I think that if you have enough confidence in yourself and your abilities, which I did, there was no reason for me to to think otherwise, because that's the way I've always thought, that if given the opportunity, I can prove that I deserve to be in the big leagues. And so that never changed. But as I got near the end, I realized that it was a real blessing to have had the opportunity to do what I do for 19 years, and being able to create memories that last a lifetime. And certainly having the chance to play here for 15 years, we created some memories. And one of the greatest things with being able to walk out today, I realized the blessing of being able to be a part of somebody's life where it had such an impact. Even now, after I've been out of the game 21, 22 years, people walk up to me and they say, you know, I spent some of the best times of my life at Busch Stadium with my grandfather, my grandmother, or my father. It's real heartwarming to know that you can touch people in that way. And I've had people come up to me literally crying, you know, in talking about those memories. Mm-hmm. And that's a real blessing to be in a position to where you can touch people that way. And I didn't take that for granted.
A few years back, I think it was right around 2018, it was snowing outside, but St. Louis Public Library downtown, Central Library, I was kind of nervous it was going to get canceled because of the snow, but you and Rennie Knott did an interview there.
That's right.
And I made sure to show up early just in case, because I was like, oh man, it's going to be packed. And then it was pretty filled, but I definitely think the snow.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like you still went, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to stay in. It's a Saturday morning. It was a free event. And so that was the first time I got to meet you. I got a photo with you, and now I'll obviously get another one today. So, I mean, you mean a lot to St. Louis, and a lot of people, when I told a few that I was meeting you and going to have you on, everyone shared a story about you.
It's that blessing that I'm talking about, you know, and hopefully the stories are all positive stories. Yeah. I always say that if this is going to be the only chance that a person has to meet me, I want that to be a pleasant experience. You know, so many times you hear these stories about somebody had a chance to meet their hero, but it didn't turn out the way, or the person wasn't the way that they thought the person was. And I didn't want to be one of those people. And so I try and make sure that if people stand in line to get an autograph or a picture or whatever, I try to be as accommodating as I possibly can, time allotting,
right,
to give them a positive experience.
Was it just about a few months ago you were honored at Nelly's Black and White Ball, which that was really cool. They invited me out to do red carpet interviews, and you know, just seeing people like you, Ron Isley, Wycliffe Jean, DMC, obviously Nelly, Luna, like how did that feel? I mean, that was just a few months ago.
I mean, it's great to be in that type of company, you know. And St. Louis, I think that speaks to the people that come here that represent St. Louis, and to be one of those people is very, very special, especially coming from the West Coast. And Nelly's always been a real close. He's a great athlete. He's always been you know, excited about baseball. He was always at baseball games. He's pretty good at. He plays pretty good too, because we played in the softball game. I forget what year it was here, and he won the MVP. You know, so he's a good athlete.
It's kind of funny because like he's been in the music industry now for over 25 something years. So you came to St. Louis before that. You experienced that time in St. Louis when, you know, Nelly and the Lunatics were the biggest in the world. And then here we are. There's a new wave going on. People like Metro Boomin and so many others. Like, how have you seen St. Louis change? You've gone downtown. There was Old Busch, New Busch, All-Star Games, World Series. Like, how has that been for you to witness all that change?
Well, I mean, I think the change is always it's good to keep up with the times, and we as a city certainly are keeping up with the times when you go downtown now. And I think it's the Midwest basically. It's always been a challenge to get people to come back downtown once they go out west or wherever it may be in whatever city. And I think that now you're starting to see more young people downtown. One Cardinal Way has certainly helped that, you know, the renovations and everything that have gone on with the new Busch Stadium, Ballpark Village, 360. All of those places are really places that I think that young people enjoy attending. You can take your family.
Yep.
So it's it's nice to see.
Yeah, it's like with the whole ballpark village, and as they keep expanding on that, it's like you go inside one of those places, you're like, oh man, I'm in St. Louis, and you forget that. And even with like 360, the rooftop view, you know, and people think they got to go to New York and all over for rooftops. It's like, we have multiple rooftops. You guys just go explore them, like live.
Right. It's more to add to, you know, the historic part of what St. Louis is all about. There's so much history here, and we just continue to add on and hopefully make it better. The big part is making it safe, you know, trying and every city has that challenge of making it a little bit safer. And I think we're getting there.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to go back to baseball. What was the toughest pitcher you've played against?
Well, you know, I'm asked that question a lot. And I say, you take your pick. Yeah, I had to face Nolan Ryan. I had to face J.R. Richard, Fergie Jenkins, Tom Seaver. The list goes on. And these weren't guys that just threw. These were guys that could move it up and down, in and out, and change speeds. Now, when I came to the big leagues in 1978, I had to learn the art of hitting. I came notably as a defensive player. So from an offensive standpoint, when you're not a guy who can hit the ball out of the ballpark occasionally, you know, it's that all glove and no hit, you know. So I had to learn the art of hitting at the big league level against all of these Hall of Famers. So when I finished my career in 1996 with a 262 lifetime batting average and having gotten 2,400 hits and stolen 580 bases, it was something that I could certainly be proud of, you know, because it was against some of the game's greats. And so, you know, it was challenging, but I was willing to put forth the effort. And it's the thing I tell young people, you know, there has to be some blood, some sweat, and some tears. And that's how you create success, you know, that having a good work ethic and believing in yourself and your abilities and willing to put forth the effort, you know, spending that time in the cage. Now, I was blessed with the ability to field a ground ball, but I took ground balls every day, still to make sure that I didn't walk away from this feeling like I didn't do my best every day.
It's like you still had to show up. You couldn't just
no.
Like, oh, I'm great, and then I'm not going to do that. It's like the little things, the fundamentals, is what makes.
That's exactly right. It's the fundamentals. And I also leave this message with young people. If you have good fundamentals, you have a reference point. When you don't have fundamentals, you're always searching. You're like, it's like being in the dark. You know, so learning the fundamentals, that's what you have to go back to when things go bad, because they do go bad. From a defensive standpoint, you go in a slump. The thing that gets you out of that slump is be more aggressive. You got to go get it. From a hitting standpoint, if you're not hitting, it's probably because you're not seeing it. So I had a question the other day from a young man about a hitting slump. And I said, well, the first thing that you want to do, the body reacts to what it sees. Okay? So if you're not seeing it, you know, how are you going to react to it? So the first thing before you start changing anybody as far as hitting and stuff is concerned is make sure you're seeing the ball. So when you get in to take batting practice, you watch 4 or 5 balls. And it's amazing what happens when now you start seeing it. The body starts reacting to what it sees.
Who would you say would be some of the toughest pitchers to pitch or to bat against in this day and age?
To hit against? Well, you know, I would look at pitching today. You know, guys throw 90, 95. 100. That's easy. That's easy. It's like I was telling you a minute ago. It's pitching is being able to get it up in the zone when you need to get it up in the zone, to get the movement when you need it, or move it in and out, knowing how to brush a guy back, you know, so that you can make that good pitch down and away. You know, today when you have guys that, and I think this is the way they're drafted, and this is where the game has changed. They draft guys because he's 6'4", 6'5", and he throws 95, 100 miles an hour. Well, for a hitter, there's not a whole lot of thinking there. Now it's just timing. Mm-hmm. When a guy throws 95 miles an hour, he's probably going to be proud of his fastball. So now it's just making sure that fastball is down in the zone and it's timing it, as opposed to, say, a Greg Maddux or a Tom Glavine, who doesn't throw hard but have great control. They keep you off balance. That's pitching. And I think today you have more throwers than you have pitchers.
So when you're at a game nowadays, like obviously, you know, like opening day, there's a big ceremony, and we'll talk about that. But what are you seeing when you're watching the game? Like, I'm sure a lot of people are coming up, hey, it's great to see you. But like when you're in that moment and you're watching the game, what are you looking for?
Well, after the Clydesdale run around the field, you know, on opening day, you know, I'm looking to see, you know, how a guy, whether or not he has that ability to move it up and down in the strike zone, or whether or not he has the ability to keep guys off balance. You know, because that's really the key, keeping a guy off balance, you know, trying to get him out front so that he's not what we call back-legging it, you know, and swinging for the fences. I think that's one of the big changes today is guys are swinging up. There's a saying in baseball that when you swing up, your average goes down. When you swing down, and when I say down, I just mean coming down into the strike zone, because it's coming down when you hit it that gives it the coefficient of restitution, which makes the ball carry. You know, there's so many guys. When you swing up, there's only 1 point on that plane on which you're going to be able to catch the ball. And that's what they're hoping for every day, as opposed to being that guy who can apply that downward stroke every day and get that the reverse spin on, which makes the ball carry.
Do any of current guys, or maybe within the last few years, do they ever just reach out to you like, hey, all right, what are you seeing?
Not really. That's kind of frowned upon today, you know, for guys, because they have guys who are specializing now on swinging up and all of that. So the philosophy has kind of changed as far as that's concerned. If you had a chance to watch us play in the 80s, one of the things that I think that people enjoyed coming to the ballpark was the excitement that was going to be created by our overall team speed. That's a constant. That's never going to change. So when you can have, when you got good overall team speed and guys who can put the ball in play, you're always going to be able to put pressure on the defense. There's no pressure on the defense when you're striking out 200 times a year. And that seems to be okay today. That certainly when we were playing, that wasn't okay. We knew that if we put it in play, 9 times out of 10, there was probably somebody standing out there saying, please don't hit it to me.
Yeah.
You know, because when teams are built from an offensive standpoint, the one thing that they're probably lacking is good defense. And it was one of the reasons that our organization, I think, beat the Mets. I think they won more games over that span. I think it was something, we won 86, they won 87 or something like that. But we knew that if the game was close, because we were able to catch it and throw it a little bit more consistently, we were more fundamentally sound, that we had a better chance of winning.
Do you think it's because, like, in this day and age, let's just say for, you know, football, they're trying to get the touchdown, right? And basketball, they're trying to get the dunks and the three-pointers. Baseball, like, the goal is more home runs.
That's right. It's always been an offensive-oriented game. In any sport, it's defense that puts your offense in position to win. And if you don't play good defense, then it really doesn't matter how many runs you score, especially in baseball. You know, I think that baseball purists enjoy seeing a 2-1 or 3-2 ball game with battling with pitchers. You know, you look at pitching today, and it's changing the dynamic as far as who's a Hall of Famer and who's not, especially from a pitching standpoint when a guy only pitches 5 innings. Where back in the day, you know, when a guy toed the slab, he was going the distance. You know, very seldom do you see a guy go the distance now. And when a guy goes the distance, they go, oh, man, what a great game it was. Well, I mean, that's really kind of your job. But we've conditioned guys now to go 5 innings. So what do you think happens after 5 innings? Things start to tail off, because that's the mindset, as opposed to back in the day when guys were coming up, you know, I'm going 9. Well, okay, you were thinking 9, but you went 7. You know, so it's how you set your mind. And if you set your mind for 5 innings, that's what you get.
Instead of conditioning and being ready for the full.
Being ready for the full, go the distance. Now,
defensively, what other plays stick out in your mind besides like the go crazy folks in 1985?
You know, 1982, probably one of my best friends in the game, Willie McGee, came to live with me. We came over the same year in 1981. So we got to know each other in spring training. He didn't break camp with us, but when David Green went down, Willie came over and came up, and spent the next 4 or 5 years. We were supposed to be there for a month or so. And he spent the next 4 or 5 years in my house eating my food and enjoying the good life. But watching his game, I think it was game 3 and 4 in Milwaukee, where he hit a couple home runs and made a game-saving catch out in center field. That was a lot of fun. That really stood out, because if he doesn't hit those 2 home runs and make that great play, we probably don't win that series in 1982. Watching Bob Forsch, Bob Forsch was one of the veterans on the club, contribute the way he did, and we had a young kid by the name of John Stuper who also was great. Watching those performances under those circumstances was really, really special for me. And of course, 1985 for me was probably the turning point. I think when I hit the home run in the playoffs against the Dodgers, I think it was at that point that people started realizing or looking at me as much more than just a defensive player. Up until that point, they knew my defensive prowess, but I'd always worked hard at being a better offensive player. And in 1985, I met a guy by the name of Mackie Shillstone, who took Michael Spinks from a light heavy to a heavyweight. And my meeting with Mackie was that I want to build my strength, not necessarily hit the ball out of the ballpark, but to be able to put 2 halves together. And so we combined nutrition with weight training, which...
Is that done here in St. Louis?
No, it's done in New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans, okay.
And that's where he was headquartered. And for those listeners, Mackie has trained some of the greats from boxing to football to tennis. He's done everybody. And it was just great getting a chance to deal with somebody on that level that understood that I was trying to gather strength while at the same time maintaining my flexibility and my range. Now, I did get up to a point to where they used to call me Bulldog because I put on so much muscle and stuff. It did slow me down a lot, so we just had to back off of that. But it was through the weight training and the nutrition that he gave me something that I live with today, learning nutrition and weight training, the things that are good and the things that are not.
What is training like during the season opposed to off season?
Well, to give you an idea, when I was working with Mackie, we were always going to the postseason, which was going into October. So if we were fortunate enough to get into the series, which we did in 80, 82, 85, 87, 88, in those years in there where we were making it to postseason, I would go down, I'd take a few weeks off, and then I would go down to New Orleans, where he would put a program together for me to be able to maintain and continue to work when I came back home. I always had weight equipment and stuff at home. So I was still able to work and maintain the things that we had gained when I first started going down. Mm-hmm. So it's a constant. And even today, I tell people that keeping in shape is a lifestyle. It's not something that you say, well, you know what, I'm going to get up next week and I'm going to work out next week. It's something that it's a daily routine that you have to have if you're going to, keep yourself in decent shape. And here I am.
19 seasons.
Yeah, 19 seasons, and I'm 69 years old, and I'm still functional. I can get out there and pick it if I had to. I don't have to, so I don't. But no, I had a great time in spring training, being able to go out and take ground balls with Arenado and talk about, defensive prowess and stuff like that. So I take a lot of pride in keeping myself in decent shape.
Now we're coming up here, opening day. Mm-hmm. Now, what's that feeling like as a player going into opening day? Like you're like, okay, we're back here in St. Louis. I'm tying my shoes. This time I'm going out in front of, 40-something thousand. And then on the other side of that, you're a legend. You're a Hall of Famer. You won the World Series. You're waiting for the Clydesdales to get out, the trucks to get going, and then you're waving in front of 40,000. So,
as a player, there's always the anticipation and the excitement. And for guys who have never experienced, what opening day is here in St. Louis, it'll be something that they'll remember the rest of their lives, because we do have the built-in, the Clydesdales, something that nobody else has. And there's something about feeling the hooves hit the ground and hearing that dun 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 dun. You know, that really kind of gets the crowd revved up. And the fact that I was able to be a part of opening day ceremonies when you're in the dugout and the cameras are all on you, you know, just before the pitcher comes in and, you know, he's toweling off and he's about ready to go and they look down, are you ready? Yeah, you know, so and people were expecting the flip, you know, something that turned out to be my trademark. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I had any idea would turn into what it turned into. You know, it's the thing that people remember me for, but it was a byproduct of one of the things that happened to me when I was a rookie. You know, they were giving me a hard time about being a rookie and being at the back of the pack. We had to run 2 miles after we finished working out, and I wasn't big on running long distances and stuff. So to show them I wasn't tired, I did my round-off backflip, mm-hmm. and I had a teammate that was involved in gymnastics, and he wanted to see his girls were involved in gymnastics, and he wanted me to show them that during the season, which I wasn't able to do. And so the final day of the season, you know, they asked me to do it going out to my position. Now in San Diego, the entertainment was a chicken. And so I didn't want to interfere with or compete against the chicken. Yeah. I reluctantly did it, and it ended up being my trademark and stuff. So getting back to the anticipation of having to go out there, and I did that till I was 41 years old. You know, so my last one was when I was 41 years old, and as you noticed, years it got a little lower as I went along as the legs got tired. Yeah. But it was that anticipation of that was always very special, and I tease people. I tell them that sometimes I got so high that I look down and I go, oh, they're waiting on me. I got to get back down. I had good hops at that time, but it got lower as the years went on, and it's always an exciting time to go to the ballpark here. And I can remember, I think it was 25, maybe 30 years ago, maybe not that long, but there was an initiative to try and make opening day a national holiday. And mm-hmm. I got to go around the country for Major League Baseball trying to promote opening day being a national holiday, because it certainly is here in this town. You know, nobody goes to work, and you know, I can't come in today. I'm sick. You know,
see your boss down at the
see
game.
Your boss downtown. Oh boy, trying to hide. But no, it's nice to be in a place where people appreciate it and people look forward to opening day.
That's a good transition into talking a little bit more about the backflip and what's to come of the next chapter. What's the technique at landing a perfect backflip? Because I'm 6'5" and I'm a little clumsy, and so it's a little difficult.
First of all, it's about having confidence in your ability to do it.
I can do it.
When I was growing up in Southern California, I lived across the street from a wood factory where they had sawdust all the time, so I could go over there and tumble. And then on Thursdays, we went to family fun centers that had trampolines in the mm-hmm. ground. You know, so it was something that we were always doing, which gave me the confidence to be able to do it, especially on a springy surface like AstroTurf. You know, you get a hot day out there, you know, I got a lot of spring. And so it's all about having confidence and knowing that you can do it. But I did it so much as a kid, that never bothered me.
So you have a new way of doing backflips?
Oh, yes, right.
Is that what I heard?
Because people always come up to me and they say, can you still do the backflip? And I go, no, but you can drink one. Yeah. Yeah. So as a player, you try and figure out what that next chapter is. Mm-hmm. And so I have a golf tournament every year. I'm the president of the Gateway chapter of the PGA here in St. Louis, and give you a little background on that. When I was growing up in Southern California, I never picked up a golf club. And when I retired, I, like many of the guys, gravitate to golf because it fills that competitive void in your life. And I think for me anyway, it was more about challenging me more than it was challenging somebody else. You know, mm-hmm. Can I get myself to a point to where you're decent? You don't embarrass yourself when you go out and you play, because you get invited to. I've gotten invited to a lot of great tournaments. I've had the good fortune of playing with Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Annika Sorenstam, David Duval. Mm-hmm. So it's afforded me the opportunity, and certainly having been a Hall of Fame baseball player, I didn't want to be embarrassed by that. So I've continued to work hard at being as good at that as I was at baseball. I'll never be, because it's a tough game. It's not one of these games that you pick up and you say, "Hey, I'm gonna just go out and play today," and it's good. Because just when you think you got it figured out, it's when the game jump on you and beat you up pretty good. And so I had a friend of mine that was a big fan, and he ran Whitey Herzog's golf tournament. So Whitey was having this tournament, and he said, "I would like for you to come out and hit the first ball off the tee, to get the tournament started." And I told him, I said, "I haven't picked up, I don't know which end of the golf club to hold." He said, "Well, come out before and we'll have you hit some balls. And if you're not comfortable, we won't do it." Anyway, long story short, I fell in love with the game. I hit the ball right down the middle, and that was the end of it, because now it becomes that challenge of being able to do that every day. Mm-hmm. Hit the ball and keep it in play. And so I did that, and I fell in love with the game. And so being the president of the Gateway chapter of the PGA, and it's introducing young kids to not only the game of golf, but the business of golf as well. And through this process, we've also now included veterans. Veterans, when they come back from war, and in just like in sport, the thing that you miss the most when you're away from it is the camaraderie that you have with the guys. Right. And so a lot of these guys that come back from war, they're shut-ins. They have trouble assimilating. Because
they miss
and so they miss that camaraderie. And through golf now, we've been able to give them some of their lives back. Mm-hmm. And that's what the game does. And, you got so many guys, and there's so many ways now to play golf, even when you don't have, you're missing a limb. So that's been very, very rewarding for me to not only help young people, but to help veterans as well. And so in my tournament, we teamed up with Beck Flavors here in St. Louis and Beverage Solutions, and we decided to create a drink just for the tournament for everybody that participated. People liked it so much that they asked us, well, where can we get it? So without getting too much further into that, we decided that we would try and bring that to market. Mm-hmm. It's a grapefruit Paloma and cherry lemonade.
Now, how many of these will it take for me to land a backflip?
Well, I think about 3 or 4 of them. 3 or 4? You 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah. With 3 or 4 of those, that'll give you the confidence that you need.
And the fifth one, I won't feel it.
And the fifth one, you won't feel a thing.
There we go.
So, but anyway, we decided to bring it to market, and it's one of those products that it's 5 degrees. That's 5% alcohol. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice alternative from people that don't really drink a whole lot to be able to have something soothing to sip on or drink on a hot summer day, sitting at a ballpark.
Because this will be available.
It'll be be ballpark. It'll be at Ballpark Village, Schnucks, Deerbergs, Total Wine
and
Cheese, Dirt Cheap,
and more.
And more. So we think that people will like it, and we're looking forward to the challenge of hopefully making that successful as well.
And a percentage of each
percentage
case?
of this goes to PGA Reach.
It's amazing.
Which checks all the boxes. So it's pretty neat to be able to be a part of something like that, and reaching a point to where you can take something like what became my trademark and continue to grow it.
There's a new way to do a backflip.
Yes.
Well, I've appreciated having you on. Now, before I let you go, I have 3 questions that I ask everyone. The first part is Foodie Fridays, some of your favorite restaurants in town. The next one would be dinner guests, 3 people dead or alive to join you, and then words of wisdom. So to start off, Foodie Friday, where 3 or 4 favorite places to eat around town?
Well, my favorite restaurant in the world, and I think everybody knows that Paul Mano's is one of my favorite hangouts. It's a little neighborhood place, and shout out to Paul and the family over there. That's always a great place to eat if you if you have people come into town, and
I need to
you know,
go there.
everybody likes to go to the Hill, and there are a lot of great restaurants on the Hill. But for me, Paul Mono's is second to none here in the city. I like Tony's, and I guess if I'm going to get a hamburger or something, Chuck's is always a good spot, you know, for chicken and
Oh yeah.
and stuff. So that would be three places. People to eat with. You know, this one here is kind of hard because there are a lot of great ones that have passed on. But I had the pleasure of sitting down with Muhammad Ali. So he would certainly be one of them. Nelson Mandela would be the other, and maybe Sidney Poitier.
Oh, what are you guys talking about?
We're talking about life. Of course, with Ali, you know, we're talking sport, boxing, and all of that. But Mandela, his approach to life, you know, the things that his perseverance and teaching people how to deal with all of the adversity that life brings, and coming out on the other side a better person. And Sidney Poitier, just class. You know, just when you think about it, just class.
Yeah. Now, words of wisdom. Let's say someone, maybe they're an aspiring baseball player, or it could just be someone going through a tough time, or just life advice.
We talked about it earlier, and this is, I always leave young people with this, that you're only gonna get out of it what you put in. If you don't put anything in, you shouldn't expect anything in return. And it doesn't get any simpler than that.
Wow. Ozzie, you're a legend. Man, I appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. And, you know, I know this is for a lot of young people, but old people have a little wisdom too.
Yeah. And he's on TikTok and he's a legend. So obviously you guys know that. Ozzie, I appreciate you.
Thank you.